Dipanshu, let's start with understanding your background a bit. So, can you tell us about your career journey so far and how did you come into being into the Web3 space?
Absolutely. So I'll keep it a little short. My journey has been not that big as well. I'm at right now 28 years old. Formally educated in engineering and computer science through my college as well. Was very much inclined towards the Web3 blockchain technology at that particular point of time. Bitcoin and Ethereum were the ones that were all the rage. And the thing that was cool to do in Web3 was to mine. So that is what we tried to do in college, build a script that will mine on college computers. So from there, like I stepped into an organization where it was a startup where we were building a B2B point of sale mobile application that will integrate with literally all the payment instruments that you can think of. So from card, NFC, Apple Pay, Google Pay, UPI, all of those payments. And since it's probably built from scratch, and I was thrown at the deep end of integrating with all these complex and old tool set, these fintech payment instruments. And in integrating and working with those arcane and old APIs, I gained a very keen insight into how like the current fintech infrastructure is built out, and realized that there is one major issue because of which like we are not able to achieve those 80,000 benchmark TPS that Visa, Mastercard are able to produce. And it is mostly because of the reconciliation. To keep it very simple, it means converting our data from one representation, one way of showing it, to another way of showing it, right? So your Aadhaar card and your PAN card might be representing you, but the data that they have might be different. They might both have your address, but the address representation might be different. So how do you convert from one to each other? So that's reconciliation. So imagine then what would a reconciliation free world look like, and what would a web where objects are represented only once digitally would look like, and how would ownership or control over those objects look like. So right now, like let's say you as MetaRoy, the channel exists inside the YouTube database as one entity, inside all the other platforms that you are like publishing this podcast as a different entity, and all of them are pointing towards you, but none of them are able to talk to each other and tell ki, hey, it's the same person that we're talking about, right? So how can we represent MetaRoy as a singular like digital entity and make all the other applications that are referring to you as referring singularly? So that was the vision, that was the mission, remove the reconciliation layer. And I started with there, and even today we are still sitting at that same vision with AssetMantle. But yeah, I will quickly run through the journey in between. So then while I was working on that product and it reached almost the end, like we built it out and it went on to get some awards at the Asia Telecom event where it was nominated, and it won the award for the most innovative mobile e-commerce app. And majorly the job was done, and I started looking for like my next big project. So again, blockchain came in the picture, started with mining again, this time building my own equipment, Ethereum mining. Then realized ki, hey, like there is no, at that particular point of time there was no centralized exchange. So started building that with a bunch of people and from my organization part-timing it, but we were disrupted quite quickly by Coinex, so had to dump that project as well. And finally like came up with the idea कि, hey, let's not build the tools for blockchain, let's build an application inside the blockchain itself. So then the idea came about like tokenizing like digital assets, ownables, and enabling exchange for them. The digital asset that we saw that did not have an exchange at that particular point of time was ESOPs. So like big companies like Amazon, Google, etc., what they would do is, or even the small ones that are not publicly traded, they will give you shares that vest over a period of time. But there is no secondary market for it. There is no market for it. Like if you were exiting, you cannot directly find a buyer for it. So we were like, hey, we can tokenize and make a market out of this. But again, the regulation at that particular point was very, very iffy, even more iffy as is right now. But fortunately, we started building. We even identified the technology at that particular point of time. Tendermint Core, Consensus Engine, and Cosmos were in alpha mode, not even production ready. The chain with Atom, Cosmos Hub, was not even live back then. But I read through the white paper and I saw the vision that they were building it with, which was to build a internet of blockchains, and that was permissionless blockchain. And that was that was something that vibed with me, that okay, this could possibly the future of web3, where there are a lot of permissionless blockchains that interact with each other, instead of this vision that Ethereum held at that particular point of time, which was to have one computer for the whole world. So went with it, and fortunately was able to come in contact with a family run business out of Singapore, which was Rhodium International, and they were looking for a management information system for their high seas commodity trading. So they used to deal with six other families around Southeast Asia, and they were looking for a system where they can input data and have it available as logs when there would be some auditing or mishap happening. The issue that they were facing was that this database would be sitting at one of their servers, and whichever country server they were sitting at, that particular entity could go and manipulate it. So what was the solution for it? So the solution we proposed was, hey, utilize blockchain. And that's how a Comdex was born, commodity distributed exchange. The Ship5 product, which was basically to take these bills called oceanic bills of lading, OBLs, for high seas commodity trading, tokenizing them as NFTs. At that particular point of time, we did not even know about the term NFTs, right? And we are so early. We're talking about 2017, 2018, and we built these NFTs, tokenized NFTs, and refunded NFTs as well, integrating with Western Union to represent the fiat incoming and allow for through a DEX escrow and exchange of these assets. So build that out, went into production, is live right now, is doing millions of dollars of worth of trade. But it was a consortium project. Like, that validation was not done publicly. The nodes for this chain was run by all the family, all the business owners of that particular closed trading group. But realized that all of this tokenization and exchange could be utilized to tokenize a lot of other stuff than oceanic bills of ladings and high seas commodities. So took all of this code, the full stack, including the front end, including all the client and all the messaging services, etc., and made it open source and packaged it under the project Persistence. Went on to co-found Persistence, and in 2021 January also we were very early with NFTs. So we tried to raise on this the NFT marketplace and digital real world asset RWA tokenization. But at that particular point of time, unfortunately, NFTs had not taken off, and no one was really interested in the project, and we were bootstrapped since 2017. So the funding was a important thing that we need to solve if we wanted to scale up. So we had to pivot a little bit. We did not want to go away from our Cosmos POS roots, but at the same time we had to build something which was DeFi and which was something that was built on Ethereum. So we came up with this idea of this real world problem that was there, which was liquid staking. So what is liquid staking? Explained simply, it's basically in proof of stake, instead of in proof of work where you plug a big computer inside the socket and it does mining for you. In proof of stake, someone has to stake money on top of you, had to bet on top of you, and if you're doing fine, you will make money and you will give a cut to the person who is staking. But the problem is, if you have staked your tokens on the validator, they are locked for 21 days and you cannot do anything with it. So there are billions of dollars of liquidity that are sitting without doing anything. You cannot draw a loan against it, you cannot finance it. What can you do with your stake position? So we wanted to make those stake position for basically POS chain, basically Cosmos. Atom Cosmos Hub was our first integration, and built it out while parallelly continuing to work on this NFT tokenization and exchange modules under the SDK and Persistence. Went on to propose it as a standard way of building it, inter NFT standard. It got funding from Interchain Foundation and ran the working group to define this whole standard for 8 months, from September 2020 to March 2021. In March, finished the standard specification, and from March till December, we built out the first POC as the module specification and the front end to deal with it also. and came out with a testnet. And in January of 2022, we created it as a separate project, AssetMantle. And yeah, we're sitting here now. So that's been the journey so far, I guess.
It's truly amazing to see the journey unfolded right in front of my eyes in the last 10 minutes or so, because you literally told me about you started Bitcoin mining from college, then you started commodity exchanges, you understood interoperability is the next big use case, you went to asset tokenization, and then liquid staking. So you just expanded around the entire horizon of blockchain development, if I have to summarize, if I'm not wrong. Which was the most interesting part of your journey so far?
I would definitely say it was building a bridge from Cosmos to Ethereum. So, like at that particular point of time, bridges were not a very well known entity. And recently in 2022, we have seen so many hacks, billions of dollars lost in bridges. But it was very evident to us back then also that the bridge could be the biggest point of failure. To architect it in such a way that the stakeholders are able to verify transaction without being able to manipulate it, and distribute the keys in such a fashion that it is not possible for even one or two compromise system to be able to compromise the whole bridge. So building the persistence bridge, I would say, was the technically most challenging as well as the most interesting aspect of this journey so far.